Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app, O'Connor and Company.
It's 6:07 now on O'Connor and Company. It's the third day of October and day 3 of the government shutdown, and we're going to bring you some of the lighter side of the shutdown, as there's been some comical moments over the course of the last couple of days, including, of course, the sombrero memes that just won't stop. Yeah. Also, will this government shutdown result in actual pink slips for federal employees instead of the traditional furloughs that have become the norm? We'll talk about it. Coming up in 30 minutes, Katz on the hate over there at the Loudoun County Board of Supervisors. At 7:05, J. Christian Adams on why we're not purging the voter rolls in Maryland despite obvious voter fraud. 7:35, John Lott on why the FBI won't fix their crime statistics. 8:05, Jim Hansen on the synagogue attack in England. And then at 8:35, Representative Haridopoulos will talk about the shutdown. It's Larry and Patrice. Good morning, Patrice.
Good morning. Happy Friday, Larry.
It is a happy one. We're happy to launch into the weekend. It's Air Force weekend in Annapolis, by the way. The Zoomers are in town, and it's a big football game. Air Force trying to seek revenge over Navy walloping them in Colorado Springs on the road last season, and we'll see if they can muster some kind of offense against the mighty midshipmen. Let's talk about election fraud, shall we? As I mentioned, J. Christian Adams will be our guest at 7:05, and there are several stories to ask him about. Let's first start right here at home. As you know, this wackadoodle story of this charlatan, this sort of, Zelig type, or the Leonardo DiCaprio character in Catch Me If You Can, who took on various fake identities. This Guyanese illegal immigrant who claimed that he had multiple advanced degrees. That's still in question. He was a principal for an elementary school here in Greenbelt, Maryland, went on to become a superintendent of schools in central Pennsylvania, and then became the superintendent of schools in Des Moines, Iowa, making $300,000 a year. He was elevated and promoted as this brilliant educator and brilliant administrator. And in Des Moines, they were really excited about the fact that he was going to lead their new diversity and inclusion initiative to make sure
Of course.
Yes, of course. And it turns out he was pulled over by ICE. He had a standing deportation order going back to the Biden administration, by the way. Wow. You know, those crazy, radical, xenophobic Biden types that wanted to deport the guy. He had been arrested on a weapons charge in the past, a felony, and he had a loaded handgun with him in his car in Des Moines when ICE finally did catch up to him, along with $3,000 in cash and a hunting blade. He ran on foot from the ICE cops and was found by a police canine officer hiding in bushes.
My goodness.
The school board in Des Moines gave him 48 hours to prove that he was, in fact, a legal resident in this country, which, by the way, they were supposed to do when they had him fill out an I-9 form to get his first paycheck.
Exactly.
He never did supply that. And by the way, just in terms of who's at fault here, an all-female, all-Democrat school board led by a woman who had been Michelle Obama's chief of staff and who's now running for Senate in Iowa. That's who's to blame for it. But the local hook, other than the fact that he was a principal in Greenbelt, is that he was registered to vote. And you can't get a straight answer from the Maryland State Board of Elections as to whether he actually exercised that right to vote. Well, he didn't have the right to vote, but you know what I'm saying. Whether he actually followed through and voted in any elections in Maryland. And by the way, there's a standing order from the Justice Department to the state of Maryland Board of Elections to clean up their voter rolls, because we know through multiple court cases that the voter rolls are jammed full of people who either no longer live in Maryland or are not eligible to vote in Maryland. Meanwhile, cities like Tacoma Park allow illegal aliens and 16-year-olds to vote, which is part of why the voter rolls get polluted, and Maryland refuses to do anything about it. There's the update on it. But Patrice, let me just tell you, this guy, if he did vote, he canceled out your vote. He canceled out your legal vote. That's how this works.
Yeah, as you know, what frustrates me about this story is that you have a man who faked it till he made it.
Yeah.
He had a number of degrees. Some schools have confirmed that he did, in fact, receive his degrees. Copen State, for example, they said he did graduate from the Baltimore School. St. John's University did say that he did receive his master's. However, the PhD, that is in question. The university...
In Morgan State. Yeah, Morgan State does not have a record.
Exactly said that that's not true. He did not get a PhD from them. But this is what you call, this is someone who abused the system, came to this country. I believe he came on a student visa, if I'm not wrong, and overstayed that visa, and continued to work through the educational process, found that education was a very easy way to climb the ladder, stand out as a black man, highly educated, probably can communicate well enough to fool people. Did you have an update on one of those things, Larry?
No. I'm just ready for you to wrap so I can, because we've got other election fraud things as well. But yes.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm just saying, listen, we are not all the same. And trust me, you can go back. My degrees are true, and I didn't have to stay in this country illegally just to climb the ladder.
Patrice, because we actually did the due diligence to check, unlike the Des Moines School Board.
And I don't think it's racist to do that. All right. What's next?
No, not if you do that with all employees. All right. Meanwhile, in Maine, in Newburgh, Maine, a woman ordered paper plates and rice from Amazon, and when she opened her box, she got a bonus: 250 blank election ballots. Yeah.
That is weird.
Somebody explain this to me. There's the box. It's got a stack of paper plates. It's got a bag of rice, and it's got bundles of blank election ballots pertaining to the November 4th referendum requiring photo ID for voting. They're doing a state referendum on photo ID in Maine.
This is the perfect timing for that, right?
In fact, and because of that, I'm somewhat suspicious of the story, but so far nobody has debunked it. No one has suggested that it didn't happen, and it's the perfect allegory for why we've got a broken election system. And then over in California, I love this. You know, Gavin Newsom is doing this. He wants to redistrict the state, right?
Yes.
But the state constitution doesn't allow him to do it. So he has to do a special election referendum for the state. So he's doing a special election. It's costing tens of millions of dollars to do a special election in November, and it's just so Gavin Newsom can audition to be the Democrat nominee for president. And the best part is, when they sent out voter guides, as is the law in California for a referendum, it had a map of what the new boundaries would be for the new redistricting, and the map is wrong.
Oh, goodness.
So now the State Board of Elections is sending out a postcard to everybody telling them, if you want to see what the real map is, go to this website, which, by the way, if you don't have a computer, if you don't have a smartphone, how are you supposed to be an informed voter? And, oh, by the way, the early voting starts this weekend, October 6th, or Monday, October 6th, and no postcards have been mailed out yet. So how is this even a valid election out in California? It's an absolute mess.
That's an embarrassment.
It is. And we'll ask J. Christian Adams about all this stuff at 7:05. By the way, one other note, I'm sure it's just a coincidence, but in Maryland and in Maine and in California, Democrats are in charge of the state voting procedures.
What a funny coincidence, Larry.
Again, I'm not saying there's a direct connection.
WMAL, making sense of the news. Live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios. Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
Brought to you by the National Air Traffic Controllers Association. We guide you home. NATCA.org. Your next $1,000 could be one text away. It's $5K a day on WMAL.
So, Patrice, yesterday during our program, we reported on an anti-Semitic terror attack in Manchester, England, as a terrorist who goes by the first name Jihad. You know, when you name your kid Jihad,
wow,
you might expect some trouble when he gets older. He drove his car toward the front door of a synagogue on Yom Kippur. Thank you very much. busted into many people who were going there to worship, and then came out of his car with a knife, stabbed multiple people, 2 people dead. And this is, by the way, the ongoing. You know how we always talk about the coverage from the news media as events are unfolding before your eyes. They have to fill time, and then they just start speculating. Well,
yes.
That's not exclusive to the United States. Now, understand the circumstances. It's Yom Kippur. It's Manchester, England. They know they had an attack at a synagogue, specifically against Jewish people, and it's been a stabbing. And this, by the way, with the backdrop of multiple protest demonstrations near riots in England, with people waving the Palestinian flag, and multiple incidents involving the rising tensions between the Muslims who were in that country, who were trying to transform the nation to their liking. That's been going on in England. So how did the BBC cover it in real time?
But it's clear, as you said, that many communities have felt vulnerable.
Yeah, I mean, the Jewish community has felt vulnerable since before the October the 7th attacks 2 years ago. They did feel that there was a rising tension, and it was coming from 2 directions. It was coming from people who had a political mindset linked to what was going on in the Middle East, but also from the far right, which hasn't completely gone away.
Yes, the far right, and the way he characterizes the radical Muslim pro-Hamas Palestinians marching in their streets trying to take over their society is people with a political affiliation with tensions in the Middle East. And then he says, and of course it could be the far right. Despicable and disgraceful, and what you'd expect, sadly, now from the BBC. But here's what happened last night, which is a new development in this. The murder took place. They did find the suspect, or they identified the suspect as a Muslim by the name of Jihad, who was specifically killing these people because of their Jewish identity. And then outside of 10 Downing Street in London, where the Prime Minister lives, this happened. Take a listen. Cut 7.
And I've just gone around the corner so that I can hear you, because the loud noise is coming out of the protest that's just taking place outside of number 10 Downing Street. It's pretty deafening. It's mostly pro-Palestine protesters that are there right now. It is getting a bit violent, Ian. I've just seen 3 territorial squad police vans filled with officers just go onto Whitehall.
There you go.
Basically about sort of half an hour ago.
So a pro-Palestinian, pro-Hamas, anti-Semitic terrorist murders Jews in Manchester, England, on their way to temple on the holiest day of the calendar, Yom Kippur. And that evening, people supporting Hamas and the terrorists demonstrate and protest. And frankly, the only word I can use is celebrate.
I think celebrate
the
is
murder
correct.
While in front of 10 Downing Street. The people on the side of the murderer took to the streets and waved Palestinian flags and celebrated the terror attack. There is something seriously broken in the United Kingdom.
Well, and I hope here in the United States we're taking a very close look at what can possibly be our future. If you allow this Islamic radicalism to take a foothold, to become ingrained into the fabric to the point where your news media is explaining away and even giving them cover for the radical, violent, anti-Semitic, anti-Western perspectives.
Yeah.
I mean, this can just as easily happen in Dearborn, Michigan, if we're not careful, or in some parts of this country where some of these folks are actually being elected into office and are shaping the policies.
You ain't lying. Dearborn, Minneapolis, and neighborhood coming toward you. I do want to leave you with a bit of hope here as we look at Europe and see the rising anti-Semitism there. In Munich, Germany yesterday, outside a Jewish synagogue on Yom Kippur, there was a demonstration by pro-Palestinian, pro-Hamas, anti-Semitic protesters in front of the synagogue. Christians and Catholics of all shapes and sizes from the local Munich neighborhood came to that synagogue and formed a human chain surrounding it, holding hands in solidarity with the Jewish community.
Beautiful.
to keep those pro-Islamist demonstrators from intimidating their neighbors and their brothers and sisters with the Lord. And that was a beautiful, beautiful thing to see. That video went viral, and I loved it. It is 6:23.
All right, coming up, we've got Gary Katz, former candidate for the chairman's seat in the Loudoun County Board of Supervisors. He is going to weigh in on some really ridiculous comments from one of the Loudoun County board members. Stay with us. It's O'Connor and Company at 6:30.
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station. Making sense of the news. News Talk 105.9. WMAL. News now. Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
6:36 now on O'Connor and Company. Thank you. It's the 3rd day of October, day 3 of the shutdown, and, well, we're diving into the latest. Not that there was much development yesterday, but we will have a vote in the Senate today, and then we'll see how close we are. Coming up at 7:05, J. Christian Adams will talk about the voter rolls in Maryland and other problems around the country with voter fraud. 7:35 brings us John Lott on why the FBI has still not cleaned up their crime database. 8:05, Jim Hansen on the terror attacks in England. And then at 8:35, Representative Haradopoulos on the shutdown. It's Larry O'Connor with Patrice Onwuka. Morning, Patrice.
Happy Friday, Larry.
And to you. Phyllis Randall is the... Is she currently the chair, or has she been rotated off the chair? I'm not sure. But she's on the Loudoun County Board of Supervisors. You know her as the person who authorized and engineered the junkets for the Board of Supervisors to go to foreign countries on taxpayer dimes and stay in 4-star hotels, et cetera, et cetera. She decided to chime in on the death of Charlie Kirk. Cut 9. Listen to it.
A death, even a horrible death, does not automatically erase the harm a person did in his life. In my opinion, Charlie Kirk engaged in promoting political violence and division. It was couched in free speech, and indeed, it was free speech. But free speech can be damaging, free speech can be harmful, and free speech can even be dangerous.
There you go. Gary Katz was the candidate for chairman at large at the Loudoun County Board of Supervisors. He joins us now. Wow, Gary. You know, listen, you let somebody speak on an open microphone, and they will eventually reveal exactly who they are, won't they?
Oh, absolutely, Larry. It's astonishing, and it's not incredibly hypocritical that Phyllis Randall, of all people, would make these comments, because Phyllis Randall, the champion of free speech in Loudoun County, who allows the Jews to be pilloried in the very meetings that she runs, without condemning one word of the pro-Hamas crowd, who does she come out against? She comes out against Charlie Kirk. Mr. Prove me wrong, debate me, converse with me, let's have a conversation. That's the rhetoric that she condemns. It was appalling, astonishing, and a lot of people are incredibly angry about it, and rightfully so.
Rightfully so. And how despicable and classless to go after a man who, it's only been a few weeks since he was murdered before our very eyes, and he can't defend himself. Just better to just keep your mouth shut. But why do you think she feels the need to do this? It's as if, she has to check some box with her radical supporters out there in Loudoun. This is not what Loudoun County deserves.
You're absolutely right. I don't know the exact reason why. I could speculate, as others do, and I'll call it out. I think that she felt that a particular community was being targeted by Charlie Kirk, which is what the left goes off and says, that he's a racist, that he's a misogynist, that he's a yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
And frankly, I think that is likely what spurred her to speak on the issue. That and the fact that it's a national talking point that aligns with things that she's passionate about. But the problem is that this is exactly what we said about 3 months ago in the Board of Supervisors meetings, that if you're going to, if someone came into the boardroom and said racially inflammatory or anti-LGBTQ rhetoric, the board would undoubtedly condemn it. And yet they stay silent. Speech in front of them. They stay silent in the face
Yeah.
of hate speech directly in front of them.
Yeah.
While, then 3 months ago, 3 weeks ago, she goes and makes this comment. It's horrible.
You know what's so interesting? One of the things that she said is that Charlie Kirk, quote, put many communities in increased danger. Talk to us about her position on people who actually put those in this community in danger, like violent criminal illegal aliens or violent criminals who are not being prosecuted the way they should be.
This board has made horrible comments regarding the Loudoun County Sheriff and ICE and immigration going forward. They claim that law enforcement is targeting very specific communities, and they try to make it about something that it's clearly not. But we don't hear the board speaking out on behalf of victims of crime. We don't hear the board speaking out on behalf of the majority of Loudoun citizens who disagree with this. We hear them talking from their perch about the things that they care about, the talking points that are relevant to them. And it's very narrow. It's very jaded. It's not representative of the majority of Loudoun County. And it's yet another example of Loudoun County weighing in on matters, one, that didn't pertain to it, right, and upsetting people. And secondly, candidly, all Phyllis Randall had to do in order to meet this moment was to decry political violence, and that's it. Instead, in her very own jurisdiction, we have lawmakers who are under threat. We have Gary Higgins, who received a death threat, and the person who did that was arrested. We had Suha Subramaniam, the congressman from Virginia 10, who had targets, and threats made against him, and that they had to have law enforcement intercede. This is not calming down the rhetoric. This is not calming things. This is just simply continuing to amp up the temperature within the county.
So I agree with you, Gary, that this is not a good reflection on Loudoun County, and this doesn't properly represent the good people of Loudoun County. And yet this is how Loudoun County continues to vote. And I would like to think that at some point they come to their senses. When's their next opportunity, other than for governor, of course, this coming November? But this Board of Supervisors needs to face the voters after all of the things that they've done and said.
Yeah, the next Board of Supervisors election is going to be 2027. However, there are obviously rumors that if Abigail Spanberger wins and anyone gets an appointment, that there could be room on the Board of Supervisors for a special election. But this is all entirely speculative. Right now, the fastest way to prevent any of that from happening is ensuring that Winston Sears, Jason Miyares, and John Reed hold Virginia.
All right, we got to leave it there. But, boy, that should get people to the polling place to vote for Winston Sears, because, I mean, as great as it would be to roll over some of these people in the Board of Supervisors, we don't want them part of the Spanberger administration. God forbid if there is a Spanberger administration. Gary Katz, thanks for joining us, and keep us updated on whether you're going to run again and who else might be running for Loudoun County Board of Supervisors.
Thanks, Gary.
Thank you, sir.
I appreciate your time. Thank you both so much.
It's 6:44.
Never miss an episode of The Derek Hunter Show. If you do, we just might talk about you. 3 o'clock on WMAL.
Well, great news from Riley Gaines, friend of this program, certainly a friend and colleague of yours at Independent Women's Forum, Patrice Onwuka.
Yes.
She did something, listen, Riley Gaines came to notoriety because she tied Leah Thomas in I believe it was the 100-meter free, maybe the 50-meter free at the NCAA championships. And, of course, the NCAA gave the trophy to Leah Thomas. Leah Thomas is a man who goes by the name of Leah. Of course, a fully intact male who swam as a woman for the Penn, University of Pennsylvania swim team. Riley Gaines deserved to have that trophy, was denied because the NCAA was more important in trans activism. That kind of radicalized Riley, and she became an outspoken opponent of men in women's sports. Well, yesterday she did something that Leah Thomas will never be able to do. Forget about tying. Leah Thomas can't even play in this swimming pool. Riley Gaines gave birth to her brand new, beautiful child, and it's pretty exciting stuff, and we're super, super excited for her.
I'm very excited for her. I responded to her social media post that she got a promotion to Mama Bear after all her wonderful advocacy. I mean, I think it's so important for us to also recognize that for all of our fierce champions out there who are defending women's sports and women's spaces, or ensuring that DEI is eliminated, these are regular individuals who have personal lives too, and and this is a personal side of Riley. And so I'm so happy for her and her husband.
Yeah, little baby's name is Margot Barker.
Yes.
Her husband is Barker. Her husband's a Brit, by the way, which is the only thing we could possibly hold against Riley is that she, married a non-American. But hopefully he'll be a citizen.
We will not hold that against her, Larry.
Oh, that's right. Well, all right, fine. I tease. I kid. Cut 11, you'll remember, by the way, tragically ironic, considering the events of the last several weeks. Riley Gaines announced her pregnancy at a Turning Point USA event held by Charlie Kirk. Take a listen.
I think the funniest thing about this to me, and her saying, bully someone your own size, which would ironically be a man. How many men do you know that have this?
That's when she showed her baby bump to the crowd.
Yeah.
By the way, she was speaking of the spat she had with Simone Biles, who had picked a fight with her.
Body shamed her.
Yes.
It was just ridiculous.
Yeah. But anyway, there she is. Riley Gaines is a mama. And by the way, she also revealed that being pregnant made her radically pro-life, as she put it. So add that to the causes that Riley Gaines puts in her sights, and boy, you're going to have. You think she's going to run for office one day?
Oh, she absolutely can. I do know that she wanted to go to medical school, either medical or dental school.
Dentist. She wanted to be a dentist. That was her plan. I remember one of the first interviews I had with Riley Gaines at CPAC when she was first emerging, and I said, what? How did you fall into this activism? She goes, I want to go to dentist school. I put it on hold. She said, I remember, I think it was like I can't remember what year it was. It must have been 2021 maybe, and she said, I've put dental school on hold for a year, but I'll start next year. And I was like, oh, that year has turned into 4. Let's see what happens. Anyway, God bless you, Riley, and congratulations to you. And yes, we love your husband, even though he's a Brit. 6:52.